She was already dead. The law just hadn't found the body yet. She pressed her back against the barn wall where the shade held longest. Dirt caked on the torn hem of what used to be a blue dress. Her eyes tracked the road the way a rabbit watches for hawks. Still, unblinking, ready to bolt. The Arizona heat didn't care if you were hiding or not. It found you anyway. Bootsteps in the dust. A man's silhouette cut across the sun, lean and weathered, hand touching something at his throat. A leather cord, a knot tied tight. She stopped breathing. Just one more day. Don't let him see me. But he already had. His shadow fell across the cracked planks between them, and she knew, the way prey always knows, that running now would only make it worse. The cowboy stood there, didn't speak, just looked at her like she was something he'd found that he didn't know what to do with yet. He found her the way you find a wounded animal, quiet, cornered, and ready to bite. Caleb Moss had been checking the fence line when he saw her. Wasn't much to see at first. Just a shape that didn't belong against the barnwood, too still to be shadow, too careful to be nothing. He approached slow, hands where she could see them. Easy. And she flinched like he'd pulled iron. Her face came into focus, sun-damaged skin, eyes too big for the rest of her, lips cracked white at the edges. Looked like she'd been walking through hell and forgot to stop when she got out. She tried to stand, stumbled, caught herself on the barn wall with both hands, breathing hard. "I ain't gonna hurt you," he said. She laughed. Dry, bitter sound. "That's what they all say." "Who's they?" "Don't matter." She pushed off the wall, took 2 steps toward the scrub behind the barn, and her legs quit, just folded. She went down in the dust like a marionette with cut strings. Caleb crossed the distance fast, caught her before her head hit dirt. She fought him, weak, desperate, all elbows and panic. "Let go. You're burning up." And I said, "When's the last time you drank water?" That stopped her. She blinked at him, confused, like the question didn't make sense, like kindness was a language she'd forgotten. He half-carried, half-dragged her to the well. She didn't have the strength left to fight proper, just kept twisting, trying to get loose. "Don't tell anyone you saw me." Caleb stopped, looked at her straight. "Why not?" "Just don't, please." Her voice cracked on that last word, broke something open in it. He lowered her to sit against the well stone, went for the bucket, hauled it up, hand over hand, rope creaking. The water came up cold and clear. He filled the ladle, brought it to her. She snatched it from him, drank like she was drowning in reverse. Choked, coughed, drank again. Water ran down her chin, made dark spots on the dust-brown fabric at her collar. "Slow down. You'll make yourself sick." She didn't slow down. Drained the ladle twice more before she finally stopped, gasping. Caleb crouched a few feet back. Giving her space, she watched him the way you watch a snake you're not sure is dead yet. "You got a name?" he asked. "No. Everybody's got a name. Not me, not anymore." He let that sit. Studied her, the torn hem, the men's boots 2 sizes too big, the way she kept her back to the barn, so nothing could come up behind her. This wasn't a woman down on her luck. This was a woman running from something that didn't quit. "Where you headed?" "California." "Long walk." "I'll manage." "Not if you die of thirst first." He stood, gestured to the barn. "You can stay. Few days. Get your strength back." She shook her head, hard. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because people who help me get hurt." Caleb's hand went to his throat without him meaning to. Touched the leather cord there, the knot tied tight. "Old habit. Old wound," she noticed. "You got family?" "Used to." "Something passed between them then. Recognition, maybe. The kind that comes when 2 people who've lost things they can't get back look at each other long enough to see it." "One night," she said, "then I'm gone." "Fair enough." He brought her bread and dried meat from the cabin. She ate it sitting in the barn doorway, never quite inside, never quite out. Like she was practicing which way to run, the roan mare in the back stall whickered soft. The woman's head snapped up, hand going to something at her belt that wasn't there. Muscle memory looking for a weapon she didn't have. "Just the horse," Caleb said. "Name's Dust." "Fitting. She's gentle. Won't bother you none." The woman nodded, kept eating, didn't look at him. From the cabin window, Mrs. Eleanor Talloway watched them both. Didn't come out, didn't ask questions. Just stood there with her arms crossed, silver braid over one shoulder, taking it all in with those sharp eyes that didn't miss much. Caleb felt her watching, knew she'd have words for him later. But Eleanor Talloway had buried a husband and run a ranch alone for 10 years. She understood some things didn't need explaining right away. When the woman finished eating, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "Thank you." You're welcome." "I mean it. You didn't have to." "I know." She looked at him then, really looked. "Why'd you?" Caleb thought about that, thought about Thomas in the ground 4 years now, thought about choices made and not made, about being gone when it mattered, Because somebody should have, he said finally. She didn't know what to do with that. Pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapped her arms around them, made herself small again. I won't tell nobody I saw you, Caleb said. You got my word. Well, why would you do that? Because you asked. He left her there, as the sun started its long drop toward the mesa line. Walked back to the cabin, boots raising small dust clouds with each step. At the door he paused, looked back. The barn door stood open, wide enough for a woman to slip through if she needed to. Wide enough to run, he'd left it that way on purpose. Not to trap her, but to let her know she could leave anytime she wanted. That staying was a choice, not a cage. Inside the barn, Anna, though he didn't know to call her that yet, sat in the hay and understood what he'd done. Understood that the open door was a kind of mercy she hadn't expected to find. She could run, she didn't. That night, for the first time in 3 months, she slept without watching the road. Not because she felt safe, but because someone had chosen not to make her feel hunted. The barn door stayed open, and she stayed too. 3 days passed like a truce neither of them believed would last. She stayed in the barn. He brought meals twice a day, morning and evening, like clockwork. Never stayed long, just set the plate down, nodded, left. Third morning, she was waiting when he came. Standing instead of sitting, still wary but upright. You need anything? He asked. No. Water's fresh in the bucket. I know. He turned to go. Moss. He stopped. Yeah? That your name? I heard the woman say it. Caleb Moss. Yeah. She nodded. Didn't offer hers back. He didn't push. But that afternoon, when he was mending fence near the barn, she came out, stood in the shade watching him work. Didn't speak, just watched. He pretended not to notice. Kept driving staples, stretching wire tight, but he slowed down some, made the work last longer, gave her time to get used to being near another person without running. When he finally looked up, she was closer. Maybe 10 feet now, instead of 20. You know anything about horses? He asked. Some. Dust could use brushing, if you're willing. She studied him, looking for the trap, the cost. There was always a cost. Just brushing? Just brushing. She followed him to the stall. He handed her the curry comb, stepped back, let her take her time approaching the mare. Dust turned her big head, snuffled at the woman's hair. She flinched, then relaxed. Put her hand on the mare's neck, careful, like touching something holy. She likes you, Caleb said. How can you tell? She ain't usually this gentle with strangers. The woman started brushing. Long, slow strokes. Her shoulders came down from around her ears, just a little, just enough. Caleb watched from the stall door. Something in his chest loosened too. From the cabin, Eleanor Talloway saw them. Saw the way the girl's hands steadied on the brush. Saw Caleb lean against the post with his arms crossed, not leaving, not crowding. Eleanor set an extra plate at supper that night. Didn't say why. Didn't need to. Fourth day, she helped him carry water to the trough. Didn't ask. Just picked up the second bucket when he wasn't looking. They worked in silence, mostly. But it was a different kind of silence now. Not the kind where you're afraid to breathe wrong. The kind where words aren't necessary yet. You ever miss it? She asked while they rested in the shade. Having people around, family and such. Caleb's hand went to the knot at his throat. Every day. What happened? He was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Fever took my boy. 4 years back. Wife too, same week, I was gone. Moving cattle down to Tucson. He looked at his hands. Came home to 2 graves. I'm sorry. Me too. She pulled her knees up. The knot. That's for them? For him, Thomas. He was 8. Caleb touched it again. This was his bootlace. Tied it the day I buried him. Ain't untied it since. She understood then. The weight of it. What it meant to carry your dead around your neck. You ever wish you could forget? She asked. No. Forgetting would be worse. The mare whickered from her stall. They both looked over. Dust had her head over the gate, ears forward, watching them like she was part of the conversation. Horse thinks she's people, Caleb said. The woman almost smiled. Caught herself. But he'd seen it. That evening, Eleanor brought food to the barn herself. First time she'd come face to face with the girl. Set the plate down on a hay bale, looked at her direct. You got a name? Or are we just going to keep calling you her? The woman hesitated. Anna. Anna what? Just Anna. Eleanor nodded. Fair enough. I'm Eleanor Talloway. This is my ranch. Caleb works for me, but he's got his own cabin on the north edge. You need anything, you ask? You cause trouble, you leave. We clear? Yes, ma'am. Good. Eleanor turned to go, paused. You know how to mend fabric? Anna looked down at her torn hem. Used to. I'll bring needle and thread tomorrow. That dress won't last much longer the way it is. After she left, Anna sat holding the plate. Hot food, a name spoken aloud for the first time in months. An offer to mend, instead of discard. Small things, but they added up to something that felt dangerous. They added up to hope. Late that night, she heard coyotes singing in the hills. Used to be that sound made her want to run, made her think of hunters and being tracked. But Caleb's words came back. You ain't alone here. She looked at the barn door. Still open, still a choice. Beyond it, a light burned in his cabin window. Steady, not moving, just there, like he was keeping watch. Like he'd promised. On the horizon, so far she almost missed it. A rider, moving slow along the ridge, silhouette dark against the last purple light. Anna's chest tightened. She pulled back deeper into the barn shadow, watched the rider stop, turn, look toward the ranch, then move on. She didn't sleep easy that night, but she didn't run either. In the morning, Caleb noticed her watching the road more, asked if she was all right. Fine, she said, but they both knew it was a lie. And they both knew something was coming. She started to believe she could stay, which is when God reminded her she'd never been the staying kind. The fever came on the 6th night, not bad at first, just a chill that wouldn't quit, a headache that sat behind her eyes like a fist. By morning she was burning. Caleb found her curled in the hay, shaking so hard her teeth rattled. Didn't ask permission, just scooped her up and carried her to his cabin. No, she tried to say. Can't. Hush. He laid her on his own bed, the only bed, went for water and cloth. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, took one look and started giving orders. Get that fever down. I'll make willow bark tea. Anna's vision swam. The room tilted. She reached out, grabbing for something to anchor to, and her hand found leather, the cord around Caleb's neck. He stilled, looked down at her fingers twisted in it, her knuckles white. Don't leave, she whispered. Not to him, to someone else, someone not there anymore. Please don't leave me. Caleb gently untied the knot from his own neck, placed it in her hand, closed her fingers around it. Hold on to something, he said. She gripped it like a lifeline. Eleanor brought the tea. They got some down her throat. She slept hard after that. Fevered, restless sleep full of shadows and doors that wouldn't open. Caleb sat in the chair beside the bed, didn't leave. His neck felt strange without the weight of the cord. Naked, almost. Like he'd taken off armor he'd worn so long he forgot it was there. But watching Anna's hand clutch it in her sleep, watching her fingers hold onto it the way a drowning person holds onto driftwood, he understood something. Grief wasn't meant to be carried alone. And maybe that knot had been waiting 4 years for someone else to hold it. The fever broke on the 2nd day. Anna woke to afternoon light slanting through the cabin window, the knot still wrapped around her palm. Caleb was asleep in the chair, head tilted back, one arm hanging, boots still on. Looked like he'd been there the whole time. She tried to sit up quiet. Didn't work. The bed creaked and his eyes opened. Easy, he said. You've been out 2 days. 2? Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat. You shouldn't have. The bed, I mean. I could have stayed in the barn. Barn's for horses. You ain't a horse. She looked at the knot in her hand. I should give this back. When you're ready. I'm ready now. No, you ain't. She almost argued. Didn't. Because he was right. And they both knew it. Why'd you give it to me? She asked. Caleb leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You ever hold something so tight you forget what it felt like to let go? Yeah. And well, maybe it was time I remembered. Silence sat between them, not uncomfortable, just heavy with things neither knew how to say yet. His name was Thomas, Caleb said finally. My boy, 8 years old. Fever took him and his mama both, while I was 3 days south moving cattle for a ranch that ain't even there no more. I'm sorry. Me too. He looked at his hands. Work scarred, rope burned. I keep thinking if I'd stayed, if I'd chosen different, maybe. Don't. He looked up. Don't do that to yourself, Anna said. I've worn that kind of maybe. It don't lead nowhere good. Yeah? What's your maybe? She was quiet a long time. When she spoke, her voice was different, flatter, like she was reading words off a wall. I was somewhere I shouldn't have been, Tucson. Place run by a man named Gideon Marr. She stopped, started again. He took girls, kept them. I was one of them. 6 years. Caleb didn't move, didn't look away. 3 months ago I killed him. Stabbed him in the neck with a broken bottle while he was sleeping. Then I ran. She waited for it. The judgment, the disgust, the realization that he'd been harboring a murderer. You here now, Caleb said. That's what matters. You don't care that I killed a man. I care that you had to. And something broke open in her chest. Small, painful, like light getting into a wound that had been closed too long. The law don't see it that way, she said. Law says I'm a murderer. There's probably a warrant. Law ain't always right. Caleb, I mean it. Laws made by men. Men make mistakes. She handed him back the knot. He took it slow, their fingers brushing. Thank you, she said. For what? For not flinching. Next morning, Eleanor brought a dress. Not new, but clean. Blue calico, faded soft from washing. Figured you could use something that fits, she said. Anna held it like it might disappear. I can't pay you. Didn't ask you to. Eleanor turned to leave, paused. You help Caleb with the harness mending this afternoon. Leather needs oil, and he's got too much for one set of hands. It wasn't a request. Anna put on the dress. It fit, not perfect, but close enough. She caught her reflection in the water bucket and almost didn't recognize herself. She looked like someone who lived somewhere, someone who stayed. That scared her more than running ever did. The afternoon was good. Quiet work, oil and leather, Caleb showing her how to work the stitching without it bunching. Their hands moved in rhythm. She found herself relaxing into it. Sunset came on golden red. They stood on the porch watching it, dust grazing nearby, chickens settling. Peace. That's what it was. She'd almost forgotten what it felt like. Then Caleb went rigid. What? She asked. Rider coming. She looked, saw dust on the road, single horse moving steady toward town. You know him? No. But something in his voice said different. The rider passed without turning in. But Anna saw Caleb's jaw work, saw his hand go to the knot, now tied back around his neck. I need to go into town, he said. Get supplies. Now? Need to check on something. He saddled Dust quick, rode out before she could ask what. Eleanor came out, stood beside Anna on the porch. He's protecting you, the older woman said. From what? From whoever that was. Anna's chest tightened. How do you know? Because I've seen that look before. On my husband's face, right before he rode out to face the men who killed our cattle. Eleanor looked at her. He didn't come back. In town, Caleb tied Dust outside the general store. Inside, Mrs. Pritchard was talking to the smithy, asking about a woman. Said she killed a man down in Tucson. Got a warrant. Caleb's blood went cold. Who's asking? Mrs. Pritchard jumped. Lord Caleb, you scared me. It's a marshal. Creedy, I think. Showed up yesterday. He's still here? Staying at the boarding house. Says he'll be around a few days. Asking questions. Caleb bought flour he didn't need. Rode home slow. Marshal knew. Was asking. Would eventually come to the ranch. Would eventually find her. Back home, Anna was waiting on the porch. Saw his face and knew. They're coming, aren't they? She said. He wanted to lie. Couldn't. Yeah. And she nodded, stood. I'll leave tonight. No. Caleb. I said no. He dismounted. Stood looking at her in the dusk light. You ain't running. Not anymore. Not from this. You don't understand. I understand plenty. I understand you've been running so long you forgot how to fight. I understand the law's looking for you for something you had to do to survive. And I understand... He stopped. Started again, quieter. I understand I ain't watching someone else disappear because I didn't have the guts to stand between them and what's hunting them. She stared at him. You stay, he said. We'll figure it out. No, why would you risk that? His hand went to the knot. Because somebody should have. Same answer as before. But this time it meant more. This time it meant he'd chosen her over his safety, his reputation, maybe his freedom. Anna looked at the road, the horizon, all the places she could run, then looked at Caleb and stayed. Trust, she'd learned, was just another word for not yet betrayed. The marshal came 3 days later. Anna saw him first. Black suit against the morning dust, riding a black gelding with military bearing. She was hanging wash Eleanor had given her to do, and her hands froze on the clothesline when she saw that dark shape moving up the road. She dropped the sheet, ran for the barn. Caleb was fixing a wagon wheel in the yard when the rider turned in. He straightened slow, wiped his hands on his pants, and walked out to meet him. The man who dismounted was maybe 45, clean-shaven, with eyes that didn't miss much. He wore his badge like some men wore religion. Visible, important, non-negotiable. Morning, the marshal said. Name's John Creedy, U.S. Marshal out of Tucson. Caleb Moss. What brings you out this way? I'm looking for someone. Creedy pulled a folded paper from his coat. Woman, about 25, brown hair, medium height. Might be hurt or sick, might be traveling alone. He held out the paper. A warrant. Name's Anna Coltrane, wanted for murder. Caleb took the paper, made himself read it slow, made his hands not shake. Murder? Killed a man named Gideon Marr. Stabbed him in his sleep down in Tucson 3 months back. Left him to bleed out. Creedy's voice was flat, professional. You seen anyone matching that description? Caleb looked at the warrant, looked at the cabin, the barn, the land, thought about Anna's hands gripping that knot during her fever, her voice saying I killed him to get out. No, sir, he said. Just me and Mrs. Tolloway here. Creedy's eyes moved past him to the barn. Mind if I look around? Not at all. Caleb's heart hammered as he watched the marshal walk toward the barn. Every step felt like a countdown. Inside, Anna would be pressed into shadow, barely breathing, same as when he'd found her. Creedy stepped through the barn door, stood there a long moment. Caleb forced himself to stay still, hands loose, face neutral. The marshal came back out. You keep a clean operation. Try to. Mrs. Tolloway around? She's in town. Supply run. Creedy nodded. Studied Caleb's face a beat too long. You hear anything? See anything? Woman like that comes through? You let me know. There's a reward. Oh, how much? $100. Caleb whistled low. That's serious money. It's a serious crime. Creedy mounted his horse. I'll be staying in Sorrow Creek a few more days, asking around. Figure someone must have seen something. I'll keep an eye out. The marshal touched his hat, rode off. Caleb stood in the yard until the dust settled, until his hands stopped shaking. Then he turned to the barn. Anna emerged from the shadows. Her face was white. You lied for me. I did. Why? You don't even know. Don't need to. She shook her head. You don't understand what you just did. Lying to a marshal is... I know what it is. Caleb, you're still here. That's what matters. But something in her eyes had changed. Fear, maybe, or recognition that this was real now. That he'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. By evening, the town knew. Mrs. Pritchard had seen the marshal ride out toward Broken Bell, had seen him ride back, started talking. Reverend Thorne showed up at sunset, didn't even dismount. Just sat his horse looking at Caleb like he was something dirty. That woman, the marshal's looking for, the Reverend said. She been here? No. You sure about that? I'm sure. Thorne's jaw worked. Caleb Moss, I've known you 6 years. You're a good man, God-fearing. But if you're lying, if you're harboring that kind of sin... What kind of sin is that, Reverend? Murder. Prostitution. A woman like that ain't fit for decent folk. A woman like what? You know what she is, what she's been. Mar ran a brothel. She worked there 6 years before she killed him. Caleb felt something cold settle in his chest. That ain't what she told me. Course it ain't. That's what they do. They lie. They manipulate. They... Get off my land. Thorne blinked. What? I said get off my land, now. The Reverend stared at him. You're choosing her over your immortal soul. I'm choosing the truth over your judgment. There's a difference. After Thorne left, Caleb stood alone in the yard. The sun was gone. The air had that high desert chill that came on fast after dark. Anna appeared on the cabin porch. She'd heard everything. He's right, she said. You should turn me in. No. Caleb, listen to me. I am listening, and what I hear is you trying to run again. I'm trying to save you from... From what? Making my own choices? He crossed to the porch. You told me you killed Mar to escape. That true? Yes. That's all I need to know. She looked at him in the dark. That ain't all there is. Inside the cabin, Eleanor had left food. Neither of them touched it. Anna sat at the table. Caleb stayed standing. Tell me the rest, he said. She took a breath, let it out slow. Gideon Marr took me when I was 16. Wagon train raid south of here. Killed my parents. Took me and 2 other girls. Sold one. Kept me and the other. Her voice was flat. Dead. Her name was Sarah. She was 14. We stayed because we didn't have nowhere else. Because he made sure we knew what happened to girls who ran. Because after a while, you just stop fighting. Sarah tried to leave once. He beat her so bad she couldn't walk for a week. I heard it happening. I was in the next room. I heard her screaming and I just sat there. Hands over my ears, telling myself it wasn't my business. That if I stayed quiet, he wouldn't come for me next. Caleb's hands curled into fists. 3 months ago, she tried again. He caught her at the door, dragged her back upstairs. I heard the first blow, heard her fall, heard. Her voice cracked. I could have stopped him. Could have grabbed something, hit him, anything. But I didn't. I just hid, like I always did. She died that night. Laudanum, they said, but I know different. She took it herself because she couldn't take another beating, couldn't take being trapped one more day. So I waited till Mar was asleep, broke a bottle, went to his room, and I killed him. She looked up, met Caleb's eyes. So yeah, I murdered him, and I ain't sorry. But the girl I should have saved? Sarah? I'll be sorry about her till the day I die. Silence filled the cabin like water. Caleb stood there, processing, his face unreadable. And Anna saw it. Just a flash, hesitation, maybe even doubt. You think I'm lying, she said. No. You think I deserved what happened. I don't. Then why are you looking at me like that? Like what? Like I'm something you found that you don't know what to do with anymore. Anna, she stood. That knot you wear, you said it was for Thomas. His hand went to his throat. But maybe it ain't, she said. Maybe it's for you. Maybe you tied it so tight you can use it as an excuse not to live, not to feel, not to risk anything because you already lost everything. That ain't fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? She was shaking now. I just told you I let a girl die. Told you the worst thing I ever did. And you're standing there silent, like you're deciding if I'm worth the trouble. I'm not. Yes, you are. She grabbed her coat, the one Eleanor had given her. I've seen that look before. On every man who decided I wasn't worth saving, that I was already ruined, already gone. You're wrong. Am I? She looked at the knot around his neck. That thing, is it for your boy? Or is it for your guilt? Because one of those is love, and the other is just pride. The words hit like the slap. Caleb's jaw worked. He wanted to answer, couldn't find the words. And his silence said everything. Anna walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the frame. I shouldn't have stayed, she said. Shouldn't have believed. She shook her head. Doesn't matter. Where are you going? Anywhere that ain't here. Anna, wait. But she was already gone. Into the dark, running again. Caleb stood alone in the cabin, his hand on the knot at his throat, and for the first time in 4 years, he didn't know if she was right. Some nights you don't lose a person. You lose the last reason to believe you deserve them. 2 days, then 3. Caleb rode out each morning before dawn, checked the arroyos, the old mining trails, the places a person might hide, if they were good at hiding, called her name into the desert quiet and got nothing back but wind. Eleanor watched him from the cabin porch, didn't say a word when he came back empty-handed. Just had coffee waiting, he never drank it. 4th morning, he found the piece of torn fabric caught on the fence wire near the south pasture. Blue calico. Same color as the dress Eleanor had given her. He stood there holding it. Just a scrap. Couple inches of frayed cloth that meant nothing to anyone else. His hands started shaking. He walked back to the barn, sat down in the exact spot where she used to sleep. The hay still held a faint impression. He smoothed his hand over it like he could bring her back through touch alone. The torn fabric was still in his fist. He couldn't make himself let go. Dust nickered from her stall. Worried sound. She'd been like that since Anna left. Restless, looking for the woman who used to brush her in the evenings. I know, Caleb said to the mare. I know. His voice cracked on the second one. That night, he sat alone in the cabin. Eleanor had left food. He looked at it. Couldn't eat. The knot at his throat felt heavier than it ever had. Tighter, like it was choking him. He untied it, held it in his palm. The leather was worn soft from 4 years of wear, 4 years of punishment, 4 years of carrying death because he couldn't figure out how to carry life. Anna's words came back. Is it for your boy or is it for your guilt? He didn't know anymore. Maybe he never had. Outside, coyotes sang their lonely songs. Inside, Caleb Moss sat in the dark and cried for the first time since they'd lowered Thomas into the ground. Not for his son, for the woman he'd let run because he'd been too scared to say what he should have said. That he didn't care what she'd done. That she wasn't ruined. That she was worth saving. But she was gone. And all he had left was a piece of torn fabric and the knowledge that he'd failed someone again. The memory came back unbidden 4 years ago, late summer, drought year same as this one. Thomas had been sick 3 days. Just a fever, Mary said. Nothing to worry about yet. But her eyes said different. The rocking jay needed hands to move cattle south before the drought killed them. 3 days' work, good money. Thomas needs you, Mary had said at the door. It's just a fever. I'll be back before you know it. Caleb, 3 days, that's all. He'd ridden out, moved the cattle, earned the money that didn't matter, came home to fresh graves and a neighbor who wouldn't meet his eyes. The knot wasn't for Thomas. It was for the choice. The one that said duty mattered more than staying. That 3 days of work was worth more than being there when they needed him. Anna had been right. It wasn't love, it was pride. The kind that came dressed up as responsibility, but was really just cowardice. He'd been too scared to stay and watch his son die, so he'd left, called it work, called it necessary, and they'd died alone. Eleanor found him at dawn, still sitting in the barn. The torn fabric on the ground beside him. The knot gripped so tight in his hand the leather had left marks. She sat down in the hay, didn't touch him, just sat. I let her run, he said, same as I let them die. You didn't let nobody die, Caleb. I wasn't there, either time. His voice broke. I'm never there when it matters. You were there for her for 2 weeks, fed her, protected her, lied to a marshal for her. And then, when she needed me to say the right thing, I just stood there, silent. Like always. Eleanor was quiet a moment. Then, you ain't figured out how to live yet, that's all. He looked at her. Living means you might lose again, she said. Might get it wrong again. Might watch someone leave and not be able to stop them. That's the deal. You either live with that risk, or you tie a knot around your neck and call it remembering. She stood, brushed hay off her skirt. She ain't dead, Caleb. She's just gone. There's a difference. After she left, he looked at the knot in his hand. Thought about cutting it, burning it, throwing it in the well. Couldn't. Tied it back around his neck instead, tighter than before. He heard it from a ranch hand that afternoon. Woman had turned herself in. Walked right into the marshal's temporary office in town. Wouldn't say where she'd been. Caleb rode hard. The jail was just adobe and iron bars. Anna sat on the bench inside, hands in her lap, wearing the blue dress. No chains, no ropes. The marshal had shown her that small mercy at least. Caleb dismounted, walked to the barred window. She looked up, saw him. Something crossed her face. Relief, maybe, or regret. Why'd you do it? He asked. 'Cause running don't make you free, just makes you tired. I would have stood with you. You already did. That's more'n I deserved. Silence hung between them, just breathing in the desert wind. I need to tell you something, she said. About that night. About Sarah. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She stood, came to the bars. Gideon beat her to death, and I heard it happening, was in the next room. Could have grabbed a lamp, a chair, anything. Could have stopped him. But I didn't. I just hid, covered my ears, and told myself it wasn't my business. That's what I can't forgive. Not killing Mar. He deserved that. But Sarah, she needed me, and I wasn't there. Caleb's throat closed. I wasn't there, she said again, quieter. Just like you with Thomas. And there it was. The truth they'd both been carrying, not the deaths they'd caused, the ones they hadn't stopped. We're the same, she whispered. Both of us punishing ourselves for the wrong thing. Caleb reached through the bars. She took his hand. I'm sorry, he said, for not saying it before. You ain't ruined. You ain't wrong. You're just human. Yeah. She smiled, sad and small. So are you. The marshal's shadow appeared in the doorway. Their hands separated, but something had shifted. Some weight distributed between them instead of carried alone. Caleb touched the knot at his throat, looked at her through iron bars, and knew what he had to do. A man alone with his conscience is either praying or drowning. Caleb couldn't tell which he was doing. He rode out before dawn, didn't tell Eleanor where he was going, just saddled dust and pointed her toward the emptiest part of the desert he knew. The land opened up wide and mean, red dirt, scrub brush, rocks that looked like God had thrown them down in anger and forgotten about them. Sky so big it made a man feel small, which was maybe the point. He rode till the ranch disappeared behind him, till there was nothing but horizon in every direction and the sun climbing hard. Found an arroyo, dry as bone, dismounted. Let Dust drink from the canteen while he stood looking at nothing. The silence out here was different. Not peaceful, judgmental. Like the land itself was waiting to see what he'd do. He sat on a flat rock, took off his hat. The sun hit his face like punishment. From his pocket, he pulled the torn piece of blue fabric, held it up to the light, could see where Eleanor's stitching had been, where Anna's hands had touched it. Gone now, all of it gone. Thomas's voice came back to him. High and bright, the way 8-year-old boys sound when they're excited about something. Pa, watch this. Pa, you seeing this? He'd been seeing it, right up until he wasn't there to see it anymore. Mary's voice, too, quieter. He needs you. 3 days, he'd said, that's all. 3 days that turned into forever. A buzzard circled overhead, lazy, patient, waiting for something to die. Caleb touched the knot at his throat. 4 years of wearing Thomas's bootlace like penance. 4 years of telling himself he was remembering when really he was just refusing to forget. There was a difference. Remembering meant you kept living, kept the good parts alive. This was just carrying a corpse and calling it love. Anna had seen it, seen right through him to the pride underneath. The kind of pride that dressed up as grief so you didn't have to risk anything, didn't have to choose anyone, didn't have to fail again. The desert stretched out endless, empty, like his chest felt, like his hands felt without something to hold on to. He thought about her in that jail cell, hands folded, waiting for judgment. She'd stopped running, faced what was coming, turned herself in because running don't make you free. And what had he done? Stood silent when she needed words, let her go when he should have held on. Same thing he'd always done. The sun climbed higher, heat pressed down like a hand. Caleb sat with his thoughts, and they weren't kind. You ain't saved nobody. You just stand there and watch 'em die or run. 4 years of this damn knot, and what's it done? Thomas is still dead. She's still in that cage. Maybe Eleanor's right. Maybe you don't know how to live. He looked at his hands, work-scarred, rope-burned. Strong enough to pull a calf from a hard berth or hold a fence post steady. Strong enough for everything except the things that mattered. Saying I'm staying when Mary asked. Saying you're worth saving when Anna needed to hear it. The knot felt like wire around his throat now. Hot from the sun and his skin, choking him, he reached up, untied it, held it in his palm. The leather had shaped itself to his neck over 4 years. Had a curve to it now, a memory of being worn. Thomas's bootlace, the one he'd been wearing the day the fever took him. Caleb had untied it from his son's foot himself, tied it around his own neck while the dirt was still fresh on the grave. Promised himself he'd never take it off, never forget, never stop paying for not being there. But what had it cost him, this promise? Everything. He'd stopped living, stopped risking, stopped letting anyone close enough to lose. And when a woman had walked into his life half dead and desperate, when she'd needed him to be there, really there, not just physically present, but emotionally brave enough to say the right thing at the right time, he'd failed her too. Same failure, different grave. The buzzard overhead called out, harsh, lonely sound. Caleb looked at the knot in his hand, then at the horizon, the empty, brutal, honest horizon. And something crystallized. Thomas was dead, had been dead 4 years. Nothing Caleb did or didn't do now would change that. The boy was gone. And wearing his bootlace like shackles wouldn't bring him back. But Anna was alive. Sitting in a jail cell, waiting for a law that didn't understand mercy. Waiting to be transported to Tucson, where they'd hang her for killing a man who deserved killing. She was alive. And that meant something. That meant he could still act, still choose, still stand up and say, this is wrong, and I won't let it happen. He could testify, tell the truth about Mar, about what that man did, about why Anna had to kill him, could stand in front of the whole town and say she wasn't a murderer. She was a survivor. It might not work, probably wouldn't. Law had its own logic, and it didn't care much for the truth when the truth got complicated. But he could try, and trying was something Thomas would have understood, something Mary would have wanted, something that mattered more than keeping his head down and his hands clean. He stood, looked at the knot in his palm, didn't throw it away, couldn't quite do that yet. Instead, he wrapped it around his hand, wound it tight, not wearing it, holding it. Different thing entirely. I'm sorry, he said to the desert, to Thomas, to Mary. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I've been more afraid of losing than I've been willing to love. The wind picked up. Dust devils spun across the arroyo. But I'm here now, and she's still alive, and I ain't letting her face this alone. He mounted Dust, turned her toward home. The knot stayed wrapped around his hand, could feel it there. Tight, real. Reminder not of death, but of what he still had the chance to do. In the distance, a hawk screamed, and Caleb Moss rode back toward the one choice that might finally let him sleep without ghosts. Mercy, he'd learned, wasn't about who deserved it. It was about who had the guts to give it anyway. He rode into Sorrow Creek at dawn. The town was just waking. Smoke from breakfast fires. Dogs sniffing at doorways. The smell of coffee from the boarding house. Word had spread fast. By the time he tied Dust outside the courthouse, a dozen people had gathered, watching, whispering. Reverend Thorne stood on the church steps like a prophet waiting to pronounce judgment. Caleb walked past him. You plan on defending that woman? Thorne called out. Caleb stopped, turned. I plan on telling the truth. The truth is, she's a killer. The truth is, she's alive. And that means something. It means you're throwing away everything decent about yourself for what, Reverend? Say it. Thorne's jaw worked. For a woman who ain't worth saving. The words hung in the morning air. People shifted, waited. Caleb stepped closer, voice low, dangerous. Every person's worth saving? That's what you're supposed to teach. Or did I miss something in your sermons? He didn't wait for an answer, kept walking. Eleanor appeared beside him, didn't say a word, just fell into step, silent solidarity. Inside the courthouse, Marshal Creedy was setting up. The trial wasn't official, frontier justice rarely was, but the marshal had convened witnesses, called the circuit judge, enough to make it legal. Anna sat at a wooden table, hands folded, the blue dress clean, her hair pulled back. She looked up when Caleb entered. Something passed between them, recognition, resolution. He touched his hand to his pocket, felt the knot wrapped tight around his palm. The judge, a gray-haired man named Horace Kern, banged his gavel. Let's proceed. Marshal Creedy presented the case. Clean, professional, no emotion. Anna Coltrane, wanted for the murder of Gideon Marr in Tucson, March of this year, stabbed him in his sleep. Left him to bleed out. She confessed to the crime upon turning herself in. Judge Kern looked at Anna. That true? Yes, sir. You got anything to say for yourself? Anna met his eyes. No, sir. I did what the marshal said. I killed him. Then I don't see much. I got something to say. Everyone turned. Caleb stood. The judge frowned. And you are? Caleb Moss. I've been sheltering Miss Coltrane these past 2 weeks. I know what she did, and I know why. Common murmurs rippled through the room. The marshal's eyes narrowed. Mr. Moss, are you confessing to harboring a fugitive? I am. You understand that's a crime? Yes, sir. Then why? Because the law ain't always right. Caleb moved to the center of the room. Gideon Marr ran a brothel in Tucson, took girls by force, kept them locked up, beat them. Anna Coltrane was 16 when he took her, killed her parents, kept her 6 years. Anna's hands tightened on the table. She tried to leave once. He beat another girl near to death as punishment. That girl, Sarah, died 3 months ago. Took laudanum to escape what Marr did to her. And Anna killed Marr the next night. Not in cold blood. Not for revenge, for survival. That's a nice story, the judge said, but it's still murder. Is it? Caleb turned to face the room. If a man locks you in a cage for 6 years, beats you, takes everything from you, and you kill him to get free, is that murder? Or is that just trying to stay human? Silence. The law says murder, Judge Kern said quietly. My hands are tied. Then the law's wrong, gasps. Even the judge looked shocked. Mr. Moss, I know what I'm saying, Your Honor, and I know what it'll cost me. But I already buried one person because I chose duty over being there. I ain't doing it again. He pulled the knot from his pocket, walked to Anna. She looked up at him, eyes wet. This knot, Caleb said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Been wearing it 4 years. Tied it the day I buried my son. Told myself it was for remembering. But it wasn't. It was punishment. For not being there when he needed me. For choosing wrong. He held it up. The leather caught the light from the window. I've been tied to that choice so long, I forgot how to make new ones. Forgot how to live. But Miss Coltrane, Anna, she reminded me something. He looked at her. Running don't make you free, and neither does carrying guilt like it's all you got left. Slowly, deliberately, he untied the knot. The room held its breath. He pulled the cord apart, held up both ends. You ain't tied to what happened no more, he said to Anna. Quiet, just for her. Neither am I. He handed her half, kept half. She took it with shaking hands, stared at the leather. Mr. Moss. The marshal stood. Everyone turned. I had a daughter once, lost her to that life. Same one Anna survived. She didn't make it out. Creedy's voice was rough, hard. If this girl killed Marr, maybe she did what I couldn't, what I should have. He looked at the judge. Your Honor, I'd like to amend my testimony. Based on new evidence, I believe this was self-defense, not murder. I'm recommending reduced charges. The judge studied them all. Anna, Caleb, the marshal, the room full of people. 30 days, he said finally. For fleeing the scene, time served counts. You're free to go, Miss Coltrane. But you stay in this territory. Any trouble? You answer for it. Anna couldn't speak, just nodded. Caleb helped her stand. Outside, the town watched them walk to his horse. Some faces hard, some soft, most confused. Eleanor waited with dust. Got a room ready at the cabin, she said to Anna. Not the barn, the cabin. Anna's voice broke. Thank you. They rode home together. 3 of them. Anna held her half of the cord tight. Caleb wore his around his wrist now, not bondage, connection. Behind them, the sun climbed higher. Ahead, the ranch waited. And for the first time in 4 years, the future felt like something other than penance. Freedom, she discovered, wasn't about where you could go. It was about who saw you leave. The first night back, Eleanor gave Anna the small room off the kitchen, not the barn, not a corner. A room with a door and a window that faced east toward the sunrise. Anna stood in the doorway, looking at the bed, the clean quilt, the water basin, things that suggested staying. You all right? Eleanor asked. Anna touched the half cord wrapped around her wrist. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Stay. Eleanor studied her. One day at a time, that's all any of us know how to do. That first week was strange. Anna kept waking up ready to run, kept checking the horizon, kept waiting for the cost. But it never came. Caleb worked the ranch same as always, but different too. His shoulders sat easier, the lines around his eyes had softened. He wore his half cord around his wrist same as her, visible reminder of what they'd both untied. She helped with the work, mending, cooking, feeding the animals, small things that added up to belonging. One morning, she found Eleanor had mended the blue dress. The torn hem was fixed with careful stitches, blue thread against blue fabric, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. Anna held it up to the light, could see where the tear had been. The mending didn't erase it, just made it whole again. Different thing entirely. 3 weeks after the trial, they sat on the porch at sunset, all three of them, watching the light go gold and red over the mesa. Dust grazed nearby, chickens settled. The air had that high desert coolness that came after the heat broke. Anna spoke first. I spent 6 years hiding, figured if nobody saw me, I'd be safe. Caleb looked at her, waited. But I wasn't safe, I was just invisible. And invisible ain't the same as free. Eleanor nodded, rocked gentle in her chair. You were never hiding from the world, Caleb said quietly. You were hiding from the mercy you thought you'd lost the right to. The words settled over her like benediction. Anna looked at the half-cord on her wrist, thought about Caleb's words in the barn weeks ago. Hold on to something, she was, not to the past, not to the guilt, not to what she couldn't change, to this, the porch, the sunset, the two people who'd chosen to see her and not turn away. Thank you, she said, for not letting me disappear. Eleanor reached over, patted her hand once, didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Caleb stood, stretched. I'm going to check the fence line before dark. Anna stood too. I'll come with you. He looked surprised, then smiled. Small thing, real. They walked out together, past the barn, where she'd first hidden, past the well where he'd first given her water. She stopped at the barn doorway, the same one she'd pressed herself against 3 months ago, torn him in the dirt, watching the road like prey. Now she stood in the light, morning sun on her face. The hem of her dress mended with blue thread. She looked at the road. It was still there, still open. She could leave anytime she wanted, but she didn't want to. For the first time in 6 years, she wanted to stay. Caleb worked nearby, mending a section of fence. Saw her standing there, caught her eye, nodded. She nodded back. No words, just understanding. That night, Anna slept in the room with the east-facing window. Didn't wake to check the road. Didn't plan escape routes. Didn't count the hours till dawn. Just slept. And when the sun rose, she was still there. And the day after that,